Hi, welcome. We're at the Liver Buildings, Liverpool once again, and we're looking at the changes to the 18th edition. Amendment 2's come out. I'm here with Dave Tinsley this morning, and we're just going to have a chat about what those main changes might be. Hi Dave, it's good to see you.
Hi Andy.
Right. Here's the new book, or books. This one in particular is the regs itself, the new 18th edition.
Yeah.
Just looking at the changes, if I flick through this and I look at the marks in the margin, there seem to be quite a few in there, but I don't know how impactful any of them are. What do you think?
Obviously it depends on what parts of the industry you're working in. What I would say is, I think the biggest impact that we've had in the past couple of decades was Amendment 3 in the 17th edition, because we all know that that impacted our distribution boards, RCD protection and cables at a depth of less than 50 mil. You ended up with your dual low boards. The industry went very metal clad in the way the boards were manufactured. Big changes. Even when the 18th edition came out, the blue book, which we've now moved on to the brown book, the changes were there, but they weren't as impactful on the industry.
They were fundamentally the changes, weren't they?
I'd say we're in the same boat. There are a lot of changes in this, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to be as big an impact.
You've highlighted some more significant ones, and maybe we can go inside and talk about them.
And get away from this clock?
Yeah. I can't. Hi Dave.
Hi,
There we are. We'll start taking a look at some of these. We can start on page 18. There's a table here that talks about the verbal forms used in BS 7671.
Absolutely, this is new to the book, because it explains if the word shall is used in the regs, it means it's a requirement. If the word should is used, it's a recommendation. Now, I know you've got your definition of normative and informative.
Yeah.
How would you explain that?
When it says shall, that's what normally should happen. So
Okay.
effectively, it's a requirement. Where it says it should, it informs you that essentially we'd like you to do that. That's the way we're recommending you do it.
So it's a
But
recommendation.
It's not a requirement.
It's good that that's in there now, because people read the word shall and the word should before, and it had a little bit contentious. They didn't know what it meant, but now they've actually explained
Now
what it
we're
means.
separated. Yeah, that's good, and it's important. It's there.
Yeah.
What about parts 1, 2, and 3?
No, I mean, there are, as we know, if anyone's watching the video and there's a slight line on the side of a page, that tells you that there has been a change. It could be as little as a word, as much as a whole sentence. But this morning, I think we're going to talk about big impacts. And there's nothing in 1, 2, and 3, I think, that makes a big impact on the industry.
Well, the first big impact, if you want to call it that, is in section 422, which talks about corridors and voids.
It does. It says that no cable management systems should be run through corridor voids. And it used to say that it was to do with in the event of a fire, so the fire brigade knew the cables wouldn't come down. And now it's just a case of if you're designing the cable management system, you can't run them down the voids in a corridor at all.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
And finishing off part 4, we've got in part 44, we've got regulation 443.4.1, which is talking about lightning strikes. And that's changed. There's a big mark right down the page here.
This is your surge protection, isn't it? Specialist
Surge
area for you.
protection,
What's it say about it?
It still asks us to consider the effects and consequences of overvoltage, and it talks about that there were 3 in the list before. They're still there, but it does say now quite clearly for all other cases. So for any installation not covered by that list, protection against transient overvoltage shall be provided.
Okay.
We've just defined shall means it's effectively a requirement. But then it says, unless the owner of the installation declares it's not required because they're willing to stand the loss.
So domestic premises, do you need it for them?
According to that, yes, unless the owner says, I don't want it for a reason because I can stand any loss.
So if they sign something to say they don't want it, you're okay?
That's one way around it, you know. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah. So moving forward, we're now into part 5. I'm in chapter 51 and I'm looking at the identification and warning notices.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it used to say in part 5 that if you had a distribution board that had mixed cable colours, if you had an RCD in there, that to be a sticker on the front explaining that there were mixed colours in there, or that the RCD needed to be tested every 6 months using the test button. That's changed now, and you don't have to have any stickers on the front of a distribution board, but you do have to have a pack that you hand over to the customer that's got all that information
Right,
in it.
and contains all that.
Yeah.
Okay. And if we turn over to the identification of conductors, there's one regarding the functional earth, which used to be cream.
Used to be cream, and your RCBOs had the cream
Yeah.
conductor coming off it, and it's now pink. That's what we remember.
Okay.
Functional earths are now pink.
Yeah, and like you said before, there are marks throughout the rest of part 5, but we're looking at the more significant changes. So if I just breeze us forward into part 6, initial verification, insulation resistance IR.
Yeah, okay. Well, obviously the first thing to mention is that if you're going to do a 2391 qualification or any inspection and testing qual, you should have the most up-to-date copy of Guidance Note 3 with the amendment bar at the bottom to say it's brown. Same goes for the on-site guide. With regard to insulation resistance, it used to say if you're testing a circuit that had voltage-sensitive equipment in it, you should do it at 250 volts. It's now stating clearly that you should do it at 500 volts, but take the voltage-sensitive equipment out of that circuit first. It does say you can go back and test it again later at 250 once that's in,
Yeah.
but now it's 500 volts for the fixed wire.
For the fixed wire.
Yeah, okay.
RCDs, a small but big change.
Do you know what? We talk about significant changes. I'd say this is the significant change that people will be talking about. Not forever, but for a long time, we can remember that we've tested RCDs at half times, 1 times, and 5 times I delta N, and we needed a 40 millisecond disconnection time at 5 times I delta N. That's gone now. Now you only have to test these RCDs at 1 times its rated residual current. For a 30 milliamp, it's got to disconnect in less than 300 milliseconds. No need for a 5 times anymore.
And that's for any RCD type, by the way, isn't it? Irrespective of whether it's type A, type AC, type B. 300 milliseconds maximum disconnection time.
That's the one. Big change, because it's obviously going to look at your test instruments that have got half times, 1 times, and 5 times on them. The 5 times no longer required.
And there's one more while we're in part 6, by the way. It's the certificate, the tick boxes.
Yeah, that relates to Appendix 6 at the back, where it's got your certificates, model certificates. Used to be lots of tick boxes for the visual inspection. Yeah, now they've reduced them. I believe it's 14 tick boxes, because they do them in sections now. So it's brought it right down. You'll look at an area, and if everything complies in that area, it's 1 tick instead of each individual point.
And the schedule of test results is now appears over 2 pages.
Over 2 pages, so there's a slight change in that. Obviously, your certificates don't have to be out of Appendix 6. You can get the software online, NIC, NAPIS, etc. They're all going to marry into this now.
So we move into part 7, special locations. Another one of those small but significant changes in rooms containing baths and showers.
Well, it's one that everybody seems to know. You can have a socket outlet in a room containing a bath or shower, but it's got to be away from the rim of the bath by, always used to be 3 meters. It's now 2.5.
Yeah. So you've got some others as well in part 7, section 712, PV systems.
Well, a lot is the answer.
Okay.
I do think that the future is here. Let's put it that way. Microgeneration, PV systems, electric cars, etc. So the PV section has been quite extensively rewritten. So it's definitely worth looking at that if you're involved with putting in PV systems.
Yeah,
because it's changed.
If I have a look here, I can see that there's
Extensive changes.
extensive changes. It is worth looking at that, isn't it?
In PVs, yeah.
And I suppose hand in hand with that, we've got a new part 8 to the regs that's never been there before.
Okay, this is that word, isn't it? The prosumer, which is a professional consumer, if you want to break them down into 2 parts. I've used the word microgeneration with you when we've discussed it in the past. The simplest way to explain it is that section deals with, if you're domestic and you've got PVs on your roof and you are creating energy which is going back onto a smart grid, there's a lot of information in there, but it comes back to that term informative.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
because there's a lot telling you what it's all about.
Yeah.
There are regs in there, but there's a lot explaining to you.
It is.
About what
it explains what it is, what it means, and how you integrate it with your own system and with the system outside.
It's quite thorough, isn't it? There's lots of diagrams, lots of examples.
Yeah, it is.
So we've got to think about, when we do the regulations exam, obviously at the moment it's broken into the 7 parts and the 17 appendices. There's going to be a part 8.
I would imagine so, yeah.
So exam questions on it, they're probably going to have to be quite narrow, because it's got to be a specific A, B, C, D answer.
Yeah.
And because it's quite informative, they're going to have to pick up on the regs to put any questions in there.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And that seems to be, that covers it in a nutshell, really, those main changes.
The only one I'd say is one we looked at the other day is just to finish off. In your appendices, Appendix 4, which is your times characteristics graphs, they look slightly different. Your actual graphs that are in there, they used to be very linear in the format, would I be right in saying? I'll find them, you tell us, Andy.
No, you just,
There we go, yeah. So holding them up, they just look slightly different, don't they?
They do, yeah.
So it's just worth noting that,
think
although the information in the boxes and the way the boxes are set out with regards to your disconnection times and your fault current, it's the same.
Yeah.
But it's just the way these look. Don't be put off by the way they
No,
look.
that's right.
Is what
They
I'd
look
say.
very similar though, don't they? But yeah, there are changes, and you can see the big marks down the page to indicate them. Well, Dave, we seem to have covered that quite quickly, really. Do you think that's okay?
Didn't take long. I think we have covered everything. I mean, for example, what do you think is the most significant change?
I suppose some people would probably latch on to the 5 times RCD test no longer being there, but for me, I think it's the verbal forms table right at the beginning, page 18, where it expressly identifies how to interpret the shall, the should, the can, the is, all those things. I think that one for me.
Yeah. Okay.
And you?
Do you know what? I don't even think it's in the regs. I think the most significant thing to take from this video is that you don't need to retake your qualification. We get a lot of calls at the office of people saying, I took my 18th edition in 2018, 2019, do I need to retake it? And the answer is categorically no. I'd suggest that if anyone's looking at a forum and it says you've got to be qualified to the Brown Book, it's not true. You and I know. If you take the City and Guilds exam, the 2382, if it's after these amendments, it will be the 238222. That says that you took it to the Brown Book.
Yep.
Previous to that, it was the 238218. That meant you took it to the Blue Book. But what that qualification states is that you know how to reference the regs.
To reference the book and use the book, that's right.
That's not going to change even if they have an Amendment 3 and Amendment 4. I mean, people may want to come back and take the exam. I'm not going to stop that. If you want to watch a seminar, it's fine. But to be honest, we covered that in a short period of time.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to get a day out of it.
No? Oh well, listen Dave, thank you very much for that, and might see it again for Amendment 3, eh? And
For Amendment 3.
The weather's just as nice.
Brilliant.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's on.
We were just about to leave and I had one last thought to put on this video. If you're looking at the inspection and testing videos that are further down on this website, you'll notice that the RCD one is obviously dated now. So don't worry, in the next month or two we're going to update all these videos below and they'll be bang up to date with the new regulations.